Hi everybody and welcome to a new strand on my channel called, haven't quite decided yet, but I think I'm going to call it Motorcycle Camera Masterclass. What about that for something short and punchy, huh? I actually was trying to think of something like Motocam Masterclass or Motocam. I don't know, I was coming up with all sorts of ideas and I thought to myself, I'll just call it exactly what it is. So that's what it is, Motorcycle Camera Masterclass. The aim of this is, well, for those of you who are new to the channel and you don't know, and I'm sick of mentioning this, sorry if I seem to be a little bit, oh, this is what I do for a living. I'm a television cameraman, I have been for 35 years, and I'm also hugely passionate about motorbikes, as again, those of you who are already subscribed to my channel know. So obviously my love of those two things has fused on this channel, and it seems to be like a natural progression that I'm going off a lot doing different types of camera reviews, and I'm sort of being sent cameras now by different manufacturers. But on top of that, a lot of you are messaging me on the channel and privately about what to do with this camera, how does this function work on this camera. So I thought to myself, well, it's about time I set up a strand to address those issues. So I'll crack on with episode 1. I've got my computer here at the side of the screen, so I have a load of messages actually on the computer, which I'll try and address as well throughout the course of these episodes. But I thought what I would do is to try and, because there's so much to talk about, I mean, it's an enigma, the camera world, especially when you're trying to take footage on motorbikes or anything for that matter. But rather than sort of keeping it global, if you like, and addressing all issues with all cameras, I'll come up with a theme for each episode. Don't know how often I'll be bringing you an episode. What I will do is I'll throw it open on YouTube, like on a short or on a poll or something like that, to see what you want me to cover in the next episode, and I'll invite questions and comments from you for that particular setup, whatever it may be. I did throw out something last week, and it's because I thought, well, let's start with the current setup that I use, which is the DJI Osmo Action 3 and the DJI Wireless microphone. I keep calling it the DJI Wireless Go. It's not. That's obviously from Rode, the Rode Wireless Go. But this is just, I think, on their website called the DJI Mic, but it is wireless. So I did throw out questions to you last week. I didn't know I was going to start the whole series then, but with the amount of questions coming in, I thought, okay, this is a good idea for a series. Forgive me for looking away. I've got all the stuff on the desk in front of me. When you do buy the DJI Mic, not the Wireless Go, the DJI Mic, it comes with 2 transmitters. Sorry, I've got the second transmitter already on the desk to demo to you, and the receiver. So the receiver clips in. I'm not going to go through the whole workings of each system, by the way, because I've already done that on previous on previous videos. If you want to go back through my library, you'll be able to see when I first started experimenting with this not that long ago. I must say, however, before I demonstrate this, I'm still in love with it. To me, it's the best system I've ever used on board a motorbike. The picture quality is incredible. The audio quality is even better, especially with this new system. So obviously you click the receiver into the side of the camera, and it does. I've been asked by a few of you, when you're riding along at speed, does it not clip out? Does it not sort of come apart from speed? But I'll just be quiet and I'll clip this in, because it does click in. See if you can hear this. I'll hold it next to the microphone, which I'm wearing. So it's quite a solid click, and it doesn't fall out. It might seem flimsy, but that's designed for vibration and any movement, so it doesn't snap the terminal. So it's designed to move around a little bit, which is great. The DJI have clearly thought about this system, so it doesn't. I mean, I've been riding at silly speeds. I'm not going to tell you what, because then you'll have me bang to rights. But and I've been turning my head as well on purpose to try and lose the microphone, just to demonstrate that it doesn't come out, and it doesn't. So it's quite firm. What I do, and I have done on certain occasions when I've been off on like a 5-hour ride as such, I've attached a small rubber band just around the 2 units, so it doesn't interfere with the lens. It just goes underneath the lens around there, and well, it doesn't interfere with anything, as they say in Ireland, to be sure, to be sure. So if you want to do that, you can, but I really can't see you having any problems with that becoming detached. Okay, so I'm going to start reading out some of the questions that you've sent into, that's the top tip by the way, I'm going to start reading out some of the questions that you have sent me, and we'll take it from there. So the first question to come in is from a fella called Martin Spate. Dave, what's 10-bit log footage? Okay, that's a very interesting question, because at the time of recording this video, the Osmo Action 3 has a new firmware update, which is actually loaded onto my camera now. The difference, to simplify it, between log footage and normal footage is it's a bit, well, it's similar to JPEG photographs and RAW photographs. So RAW photographs would carry all of the information, so you could tweak all of the information to compose the shot to your liking. It's exactly the same with log footage on a video camera like this. So log footage will look straight out of the camera almost black and white, desaturated, horrible. You couldn't really use it straight out of the camera. You'd have to manipulate it. But the big difference where you will see in log footage 10-bit compared to, well, log footage allows you to color grade. I'll go into that, not in this video, in a different video, because that's another minefield to tackle. There's so much to know about that. However, what I will say is that you don't need to start looking at downloading LUTs. LUT is short for a lookup table. Again, I just won't go into that at the moment. You can still, I use Final Cut Pro X, and within that program, you can import LUTs if you want. You can buy LUTs, I get them free all over the internet, and they're .cube files, which you can import into most editing programs. However, I said I wouldn't go down the LUT route in this video. What you can do if you want to record 10-bit footage is to color it yourself. So you can tweak it within Final Cut Pro X and just add a bit of saturation to your own liking. And because it's in log, you can do all that. It's like having a blank canvas and you're coloring in the picture already created. Think of when you were a kid and you were doing the coloring in books. It's a little bit like that. I should have said that first of all. That would have saved me about 1.5 minutes worth of video there. So try that first of all. People get frightened when they hear the terminology LUTs and 10 bits and log and everything. It's just giving you more to play with. Where you can see the big difference when you're riding along on a motorbike is in the sky. And obviously when you've got a camera on your chin facing forward, you're inevitably going to get a lot of sky in your shot. And in 8-bit footage, you can nearly see the grading on the sky, where the camera is trying to process the sky. And it's not very attractive look. So in 10-bit footage, that's why, well, I'll certainly be using the 10-bit in future on bigger projects like the Connemara series I did last year, when I go away to make a series of sort of travel videos rather than just riding around the doors, so to speak, where you know, I need to sort of churn those videos out quite quick. I'll stick to using 8-bit footage because the color profile in normal or standard on the camera on the Osmo Action 3 is fantastic. I wouldn't use vivid color mode because it's not to my liking. It's too vivid, but the standard mode is beautiful. All the colors are perfect. And don't even get me going about HDR. That just doesn't work at all when you're riding at speed or traveling. Basically, the camera can't process the amount of information when you're moving forward as you would do on a motorbike. So it makes an awful mess of it, in my opinion. I just would stay clear of HDR. So I should tell you at this stage what my preferred settings are. 4K, 50p, and that's it. Standard color mode. And oh, I must mention Rocksteady at this stage, because one of the other upgrades within this firmware is I can't speak today. What's that about? I think I'm trying to think of too many things. I can't multitask. I can't think and speak. Yeah, one of the other firmware upgrades is Rocksteady Plus. Now, where that comes in really handy is not on a motorbike, because to make it a plus, as it suggests, it's even more rock steady. It crops into the image even more. So on a motorbike, you need a good wide aspect, well, I think you do, to show your hands on the handlebars, to show the side mirrors, and to show the vista in front of you. All of this, of course, I'm talking about with the camera on your chin. But with the Rocksteady Plus, I mean, it's incredible how it works, but it does crop the image. you can nearly not see your hands anymore if you use the Rocksteady Plus. So where that does come in handy, there's always a purpose for these upgrades, is when, again, if you're a moto vlogger, you might not need any of this stuff if you just ride around, you know, making your own videos. But if you're a motorbike vlogger, like I do and most of the other lads do at the beginning of our videos, where we're sort of walking along with the camera facing us, to introduce the video, or indeed if we're on our travels and we want to talk about something on foot. Let's pick a castle, for instance, and you're walking around the castle, but you've got the camera facing you. When you're walking, the Rocksteady Plus takes all of the bounce out of it. There's a load of videos out there on YouTube showing that at the moment, so I don't feel as though I have to go out and do another one just to show you that little thing. But so Rocksteady Plus is a great upgrade as part of the firmware upgrade, but don't use it as you're riding forward. What was the other thing? Yes, another thing I want to touch on. Again, I've got a load of questions and I haven't even got past the first one yet. There's just so much to talk about with this camera and this firmware upgrade, is the timecode, okay? I haven't seen it mentioned on the internet at all, but it's a massive feature, this, because I can see myself in the future getting a second one of these cameras to do the reverse shot back to me, rather than using what I currently use at the moment, which is the Insta360 X3. There's a lot of processing with that camera, just basically to churn out the reverse shot of me, because you have to select your frames, and when you're going around bends and everything and you get back to processing that camera, there's quite a bit to do behind the scenes. Again, there's another idea for another one of these videos, so I'll go into depth with that in another one of these videos. But what was I saying? Yeah, so I can see myself buying a second Osmo Action 3 to go on the handlebars looking back at me. So timecode, it means you can match the two shots identically on your edit timeline. You don't have to be clapping your hands to do a sync shot between two cameras, and then when your battery dies on one camera and you forget to clap your hands again by the time you've started recording, which is difficult to do when you're riding along on a motorbike anyway, let's face it. There's a lot to be thinking about. So timecode means that you can put all of your footage in from both cameras and it'll sync up automatically. So you can literally live cut between the two cameras, or 3 or 4 or however many you want. It's a brilliant feature, and it's one that I shall avail of. Let's get on with another question, because I'm starting to waffle. Yeah, you can tell I'm a bit nerdy with all this stuff. Okay, next question from John Phillips. How easy is it to sync the DJI mic to camera footage? Right, okay, not quite sure what you mean there, John. I mean, there's no syncing involved as long as you've got the receiver in there. If you don't want to have the receiver in, harping back to what I said earlier on, if you're on a racetrack and you're doing 300 kilometers per hour and you don't want to have the rubber band round to be sure, you might just want to record the sound on one of the transmitters, which you'll have inside the helmet. Oh, I've got a top tip about that actually, which I'll talk about in a second after this. So what these very clever transmitters do is to record the audio locally. So as well as feeding the signal to the receiver to go straight on your camera track, it'll also record the sound separately in here. So, well, yeah, like I say, if you don't want to have the receiver on the side of the camera, you don't have to have. So you just plug this in like a normal hard drive to a computer and it pops up instantly. You don't have to download software or anything like that. It'll just pop up on your screen like a hard drive, and you can access, it records, let me think, about 14 hours worth of audio. So you're not going to be recording more than that realistically in one day. So at the end of your day's filming, you can go back and just lift the audio straight off this, like I say, like a hard drive. Really easy to do. So you can use the audio like that on your video timeline. I'm going to unplug that now. Just of your pictures, and you can sync the two up. But to do that, you've got to do it the old-fashioned film way. And I doubt many of you have a clapper board to do it, so just clap your hands. And the sound of the clap of your hands obviously will register on there, and make sure you do it in front of the lens when you clap your hands. And then you sync the two up like that. That's how to do it. It's the only way to do it. So I hope that's answered your question, John. Another one from somebody called Big D. If you can only have one camera, what would you choose? The DJI Osmo Action 3 or the Insta360? I will give you a quick answer to this, but it is something I really want to delve into bigger in another episode. Of course, it would be the DJI Osmo Action 3. The problem with the Insta360 cameras, and this is what I want to go deeper into in another episode, is the bit rate, okay? The bit rate is so poor on them, and people are starting to realize this. Why doesn't the footage look the same as it would do on a traditional action cam? It's all down to the megabits, okay? The megabits within these cameras is about 120 megabits per second. Even when you're recording 5.7K, which is massive resolution on a Insta360 cam, its bit rate is down. Its bit rate is something like 80 bits per second. So if you work that out in terms of a percentage, it's massive difference, and that's why the footage doesn't look the same. I'm just going to play in a couple of shots now from one of my previous videos, and I'll cut between the chin cam, which is the Osmo Action 3, to the 360, recording in 5.7K, which in theory is a bigger resolution, but the bit rate just isn't there. Just take a look at this.
So I'm taking a spin out to Virginia, County Cavan, not too far from where I live. There's a gorgeous lake there, which has featured a few times in my videos. It's just a lovely blast of fresh air. So I'm taking a spin out to Virginia, County Cavan, not too far from where I live. There's a gorgeous lake there, which has featured a few times in my videos. It's just a lovely blast of fresh air. So I'm taking a spin out to Virginia, County Cavan, not too far from where I live. There's a gorgeous lake there, which has featured a few times in my videos. It's just a lovely blast of fresh air.
So I hope that answers your question there, John. Like I say, I will go into that in more detail in a future video. Right, somebody... Neil Gleason, hi Dave, can you use an ordinary Lavalier mic with the Osmo, or do you have to use the DJI Wireless system? Yes, you can, is the short answer. However, I've been harping on, I've contacted DJI to see when can we get a proper DJI accessory mic adapter. Insta360 do them for €20. DJI, they're like hen's teeth. Apparently they do exist. They're not on DJI's website, but a few people have said they've got them. I'd be interested to see if they're actual genuine DJI pieces. But you can, however, use the micro USB to a 3.5mm jack, which you can buy on Amazon. I've sort of tried to stay away from it because I do want to use a proper bona fide DJI part. Yes, you can do it. But sorry, unfortunately, I haven't actually done it yet. So I will bring you that again in future videos. The other great software or firmware upgrade on these cameras is that, and we're talking about Lavalier mics, this is sort of leading me onto it. You can, why don't I switch the camera on actually, just to give me... I'll give you something a little bit more interesting to look at rather than my ugly mug. You can now dial the audio down to -12. So when you're using this, the DJI mic, that's fine because you can dial the audio down within the mic, within the receiver and within both transmitters down to -12, and you can do that from the little panel on there. Really easy to do. Takes the signal right down because obviously the signal is massive and over modulating when it's within a motorcycle helmet. When you're doing over 100 miles an hour, the roar of the engine, everything, there's a lot going on there for a little mic to handle. So you can dial all of that down. You can even add bass cut to take out a lot of the wind rumble and everything. It's incredible what you can do. But with the firmware upgrade on the camera, you can now take you could only wind the audio down to 0. 0 to +12 was the audio level. You can now take it down to -12. Now again, leading on from the Lavalier mic question, There's a few of you who've used the Lavalier mic. I'm saying Lavalier mic, I presume everybody knows what that is. It's not this system, it's a mic, a little sort of traditional mic capsule, which people put inside their helmets. I'm actually wearing one now for the purposes of this video into the camera, which is filming this, which is why I'm pointing at that, so sorry about that. But it's on a lead, okay? So that's what a Lavalier microphone is. And it was hot, so it was over distorting because you couldn't take it into minus values. You can now, can go down to minus 12. Now, bit of a disclaimer here, I did a review last year about the Rode Lavalier II microphone. That was a little bit too hot. Every microphone has different sensitivity. It's made differently than by different manufacturers. So the Rode Lavalier II, I actually had to stop using fairly soon after I sort of did a review saying how amazing it was. It is amazing, and it's brilliant for a lot of applications. But for going off on a tour where you encounter lots of different noises, and different speeds, I just found it was distorting too much. However, I would be very interested to try it with this camera, since you can take the level down. If anybody else has tried that and you know, please flood the comments, because in many ways I'd love the comments on these videos to become like a forum where not just to listen to what I'm harping on about, but if anybody else can share their experiences within the comments, I think that'll help everybody tuning into these videos. Okay, let's move on to the next. Actually, before we do move on, I'm just going to show you something, because one of the things I get asked quite a bit is, how do you mount the DJI Wireless transmitter in your helmet? And what happens if I've got an open face helmet? Okay, here's a trick. Okay, so I'm going to pop my snood on my neck warmer. Try not to mess the hair. So I would wear one of these even if I'm riding along in the summer. I don't know if you do. That's your call. But my top tip is, now I always put the snood up around my mouth as well, like that. So what I do is I clip the microphone with the furry windshield, which I don't quite have handy at the moment, but I clip that on the inside. That's my DJI camera powering off. So I just place it in there, with the microphone pointing towards my mouth. It comes with the supplied magnet on the back of the holder there, and the magnet holds it in place. So there you go. So rather than, and that's pressed against my cheek, and it's recorded the audio absolutely perfectly since I started using this system a couple of months ago. This is just my choice, my way of doing it now, which means you can ride along, like whether you use an open face helmet or a modular helmet like this. You can keep the front open if you like, because it doesn't matter where. Like, I always had the microphone traditionally sort of clipped in behind that part of the helmet there, I would always clip it in somehow, using a bit of double-sided tape, or even clipped to the rear of the camera mount, but it doesn't matter now. I can just keep it in there, and it records the audio perfectly. So the great thing about that as well, and covering your mouth, is when you're doing the reverse camera of yourself, you can use non-sync shots, so you don't need to keep the reverse camera running for the entire journey as well. I just record 2 minutes worth. I'm giving away all my little trade secrets here. I'll take this off first of all. I record 2 minutes of a reverse shot, and because you can't see my lip sync as such, because I've got the snood over my mouth, you can drop that shot in everywhere or anywhere. So there you go, that's the transmitter. That's the little magnet which obviously comes with both transmitters, and that's how I'm recording the audio at the minute. Like I say, make sure to pop the furry windshield on there as well. I just don't have it handy. That comes as part of the kit. Right, take that off. Okay, next question. Is it possible to use the voice prompt on the camera whilst using the DJI mic system? Great question. And yes, it is. And I do use it. It's brilliant. It doesn't matter what speed you're riding along at, because the microphone is next to your mouth, like I've just demonstrated, or even if it's in front of you and you have it mounted that way. Yes, it does. I shall demonstrate now. I won't demonstrate on a motorbike, because if I say things like, stop recording, Got to be careful because there's a power down. If I say things like stop recording when I'm on a motorbike, it'll stop, so I'll lose the footage. So I shall just demonstrate it here now, and I'll speak into this mic. Hopefully you can see the camera and the receiver. So I'm going to say, now it only recognizes 4 voice prompts, by the way, and they're all within the menu. Don't know if you can see that. Voice control. So make sure to select your language as English or whatever your language is, because I couldn't figure out for the life of me why it wasn't recognizing my voice. I thought it was my Geordie accent, but it wasn't. I had it actually set into Chinese. So set it to English, and then you can scroll down into voice commands, and so there are 4 commands there, like I say, which is start recording, stop recording. Oh, you see, it's heard me already. Start recording, stop recording, take photo, which is really good. If you just want to get a photograph, watch this. Stop recording. Imagine that, it works. So if you just want to get a photograph when you're riding along, you can actually say take photo, and it'll do that even when you're recording video. And then I think it's power down or something like that. Anyway, I shall demonstrate. Watch this. Start recording. So it's instant. So that's brilliant, you see, when you're riding along and you don't want to take your hands off the handlebars to even press the one button. The great thing about this camera, as I've mentioned many times, is that when you crash into record, you're recording within a second. A lot of the Insta360 cameras take 6, 7, 8 seconds to start recording, even after you've pressed the button, by which time, if you're on a motorbike, you've ridden past the thing you want to talk about. Waste of time. And it's something that they haven't really addressed in their upgrades. However, I shall stick with DJI, who've got it sussed with this. Stop recording. Start recording. I'll demonstrate the photo thing. So we're in video mode here. Take photo. It does take the photograph, trust me. The other thing is when you finish your recording, you can just say again to your microphone, shut down. It's brilliant. Fantastic system, and it works very well, as I say, at any speed. Okay, let's crack on with a few other things. Is there anything else coming in from questions here? I talked about the Rocksteady footage. I talked about log footage. Oh yeah, the other thing, a lot of you are asking, what is the difference when, because the sound is so good from this thing, especially when it's next to your mouth like that, you can hear very little engine noise from the motorbike. So I've done a little comparison, and I've mounted the second transmitter, like I say, which comes as part of the kit. I mounted on the brake line at the front, just in front of the fuel tank, looking down towards the air intake, since that's where the noise of the engine comes from, really. So I've mounted the second transmitter down there. I've done a little comparison. Just take a look at this test.
Great field of view on this camera, by the way. Really enjoying using it, especially on the Aprilia. Because on the GoPro, the widest I could get was literally just to the side of both front mirrors. Couldn't get any wider than that. That's because I'm leaning forward quite a bit, but obviously I'm still leaning forward, and I'm just getting a lovely big peripheral vision there. Great field of view on this camera, by the way. Really enjoying using it, especially on the Aprilia. Because on the GoPro, the widest I could get was literally just to the side of both front mirrors. Couldn't get any wider than that. Because I'm leaning forward quite a bit, but obviously I'm still leaning forward, and I'm just getting a lovely big peripheral vision there. Great field of view on this camera, by the way. Really enjoying using it, especially on the Aprilia. Great field of view on this camera, by the way. Really enjoying using it, especially on the Aprilia.
So I hope that's fairly clear, and that answers that. You can use the one mic if you're in a rush just to record your voice, or you can really, become quite filmic by introducing whatever level of motorbike noise in your edit. You can play around with it until your heart's content. The last thing I want to talk about, because I'm aware this video is going on quite a bit, and I haven't even got through a portion of your questions. Let's light up the comments, and hopefully I'll try and answer things within the comments. So the last thing, very briefly, I want to touch on is an ND filter. for the Osmo Action 3. The difference is huge. And what the ND filter does is allow you to, there's a rule with any sort of moving video or film camera, it comes from film cameras, funny enough, is that whatever your shutter speed or whatever your frame rate, you double it for your shutter speed. So because I record all my videos in 50 frames per second, therefore my shutter speed should be 100. The reason being, it sets correct motion blur. And again, when you're on a motorbike and you're moving along, there's nothing worse than seeing something which is at the wrong shutter speed and everything looks really video, and it's difficult to describe it, jittery and stuttering, especially if you're passing trees and it all looks just pixelated, which is what happens when you're riding past things like that at speed. So rule of thumb is whatever frame rate you're filming in, maybe if you're in America, you're filming in 30 or 60, therefore your shutter speed would be 60 or 120. And in Europe, you're 25 or 50 frames per second, therefore your shutter speed would be 50 or 100 respectively. Trust me, it looks incredible. The difference is massive. And an ND, well, this is an ND4 filter because I live in Ireland, so it's not that sunny really. If you're living in a sunny country and you get a lot of sunshine, you might consider experimenting with an ND8 or an ND16. You're not really going to need more than that. You can get a variable ND filter which will allow you to fine tune it, but the variable ND filters come with a few problems. So ND4 for weather, certainly in the UK and Ireland, is good enough, and that will allow you to set your shutter speed. Again, like I said, because I record 50 frames, I want my shutter speed at 100, and I lock the shutter speed at 100. And I don't know if you can tell the difference within my footage, but it does look very cinematic. It looks fluid. I love the look of it, and it's not just down to the camera, it's about how you set up any camera. The other thing about an ND4 filter as well is that it'll make the sky pop and it'll make clouds pop, and it just gives a really nice finish and a really nice contrast overall to the picture. I think the filter itself was €70. This is made by Freewell, ND4 filter, and I think delivery to Ireland, because it came from America, I believe, was another €30. Anyway, it's just transformed the look of the camera. You can buy these filters for any camera, by the way. It's not just unique to a DJI Osmo camera. So I think I'll round this episode off. It feels as though I've been speaking for ages. I don't know how long this video is going to be. It's a bit of a test bed. Like I say, it's more a question and answer session. I'm just trying to throw my knowledge and my years of wisdom out into the open in the hope that it's helped you guys coming on board. Because, you know, since the advent of, phones and being able to record video on phones, like, we're all cameramen now, we're all photographers. But if I can try and dispel a few myths along the way and make it easier for you guys to go out on your motorbike and get even better pictures and indeed even better sound, then that's what the purpose of this series is. I hope you enjoyed that, folks. Once again, I'm Dave Perry, Wheelie Good TV. My mouth's getting dry now. I need to go and get a cup of tea. See you next week. All the best.